Hi, how
Hello.
are you?
I am so much better for seeing you. How are you, Josie?
Fantastic. Great to see you. And
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. This is like such a good week. It's been so many years.
I know, but nothing's changed, to be honest. Your energy is still the same.
So
That's great.
I was
You can
telling a
feel
friend
it.
of mine that I was doing an interview with you today, and he was asking me, when was the last time I saw you? And I said, in the streets of New Delhi. We were shooting the holy scene for Double Mint.
Yeah. That's still just on Saturday. I think I played it to a bunch of teenagers in a college, in a university, and they were singing along and they knew everything about that film.
That
So,
makes me so happy. That makes
yeah.
me so happy. That's just incredible. And I think that I remember as well that day, we had the client there, Nicole, and you sprung on us this really borderline racy scene with them in bed with their clothes on. But it wasn't in the storyboard in the pre production. Nick was like, "What's
Yeah.
going on?" And I'm like, "Don't worry, it'll work out." And it did. And it was a beautiful shot. And she
Yeah. It
climbed out
was
the window.
very bold even for that time, to be honest.
But
We
it,
were,
it paid off, right? Because everyone
yeah,
loves it. And
it
they're
paid
still
off.
seeing the
It
sun.
paid, it paid off, and I think the client changed as a person because of it.
Really? That was your
Yeah.
guess, wasn't it?
Yogesh.
Yeah.
Today, Yogesh is a firebrand after that.
Oh,
He's amazing.
amazing. And how
Yeah.
have you been? How have the last 3 years been treating you since I last saw you?
It's been steady, to be honest. I mean, we are not like going in leaps and bounds. We're really focusing on our work and us
Yeah.
and the few clients we have. We've been growing steadily. The stakeholders, the industry, and the jury seem to be happy. We
Yeah.
just won Creative Agency of the Year at Campaign Asia. Uh,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. We got a silver. There was no gold, so we got the. They couldn't give us the gold, so that's fine. But we also won gold for the best client agency partnership, which is
Incredible.
for PNG. Yeah.
Of course, of
So,
course.
so
You guys go way back in terms of doing incredible work.
yeah. So in that sense, the jury business seems to be doing well. We've done as slightly better than last year, actually, in spite of the slowdown. And in terms of people, I think we're all totally stressed out. So we got to
Yeah.
be really careful.
Yeah.
There
I'll bet.
shouldn't be an internal blow up because people have really gone for it. People,
Yeah.
everyone's,
It, it's been a hell of a year to
yeah,
navigate so much uncertainty and then to try and be creative on top of that. It's not an
yeah,
ideal condition for creativity, is it? Pressure and
yeah.
burnout. But, you're such an amazing leader. I'm sure that there's no better person than to lead them out of this than you.
I don't know about these labels, but we can talk about it. Uh,
I know that's why I wanted to keep like showering you with praise because I know you just get so uncomfortable.
but how are you? And this new mission of yours, and you found something very deep
Yes,
and
yes.
made become great. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an idea I had a couple of years ago, but then you know life gets in the way and bills get in the way. But then I think when Black Lives Matter happened earlier this year, and we were all forced to just stop and reflect because there was no work to do and there was nothing else to be done. I found that the clients that I was working with, they all started asking me the same question. And it kind of made me realize that we really were going through this collective global awakening. A lot of people were really having an existential crisis and just saying, I don't know if this is the person I want to be. I don't know if this is the kind of leader I want to be known or remembered for. What can I do to genuinely contribute um, and leave a legacy that I'm proud of and, build a world where no one gets left behind. So I think that, yeah, that kind of like really got me inspired to actually dig my heels in and get going. And it's been incredible. I get to speak an excuse to talk to people like you again, which is amazing. So it's all good. But I think that yeah, we were in a very strict lockdown for a very long time, but we're out now. So Yeah,
But
hopefully there are brighter days ahead.
y'all are safe compared to most places.
We are.
Most safe, probably.
Yeah, no, we don't have anything to complain about here.
Yeah, that's
We,
awesome.
yeah, we had a very privileged lockdown situation, you know, running water, lights are on,
Yeah.
you know, access to food, all that sort of stuff. How was lockdown for you guys? Or you still?
Mumbai is got 34 million people, so it's pretty dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So it's up and down. It's like swings every day. You know, you're not sure. But yeah, we're all taking our precautions, and sometimes we are not taking precautions. So it's a Russian roulette.
Yeah.
You know.
So Josie, I had the pleasure of working with you on the Global Double Mint campaign. And it's one of my favorite experiences ever. And I think you made my job so easy because I literally just had to get out of your way for you to do amazing work. But you know, and in that, but you've also been at BBDO for 10 years as the Chief Executive Officer, as well as the Chairman. You are the originator of create acts, not ads, which everyone uses now. I see it everywhere. Everyone is saying we need to create acts, not ads. And I'm like, that's Josie. You are the king of social and cultural movements. And you've done some incredibly successful campaigns, which I'm going to link in the bio so people can actually watch the case studies. But some of the most notable ones were obviously Gillette, Women Against a Lazy Stubble, in 2010, which, you know, was a completely the first of its kind, like using women to get men to buy razor blades, and it increased the sales from 500% and increased market share by 400%.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the very famous Whisper Touch the Pickle, which won the inaugural Grand Prix Glass Line for Change, as well as many, many other awards. 2.9 million people, women, pledged to touch the pickle. You increase market share from 21% to 91%. Oh my God. And then you have the campaign being tweeted about by Melinda Gates and Sheryl Sandberg and Bollywood actresses. And I remember Cindy Gallop was on the jury. She was one of 8 women, and she does not suffer fools lightly, and she loved the campaign. And then obviously Ariel Share the Load, which started back in 2015 and is still going. That also got a gold glass line for change, increased Ariel's sales by 76%, had 2.1 million men pledge to share the load. And you basically rewrote Indian culture with education books being rewritten, the first ever world symbol for gender equality at home, cultural calendars, syllabuses. So you really got into culture there. And those are just a few of the campaigns that you've done. Like, we haven't even touched on all of the other ones, but we've only got an hour. So my first question is, I guess, of all of your, I guess, incredible experiences, like, and I'm going to provide a link in the bio as well to the CAN talk you did. You don't need a PowerPoint, you just need to make a powerful point. So I just thought it was so brilliant. And you talk very candidly about your career at Ogilvy, setting up David and BBDO. So of all of those experiences, was there any one or a few that were particularly formative for you that you go, wow, that was the moment?
So sometimes it is a moment with somebody, and sometimes it is the work. So, but they're like a rocket launch. You know, there are different stages to it. So my early stage was when I was in Lintas, which actually I haven't spoken about. Before I set up David, I was in Lintas, you know, Low Lintas. And over there, I met this guy called Kersi Kathrak that I would love to talk about. And he's actually a sort of poet, mystical sort of genius who had gone away to the mountains. And after college, I was seeking him because I'd heard of him. And I went to the mountains looking for him, and I never found him. And then I began to work in Ogilvy, and then one day I got a call from him saying, I'm back and I'm going to reset this agency, Low Lintas, and I want you to be a part of it because I heard you've been looking for me. And then when I met him, and it's just the way it works, you know, life is amazing. The man I'm looking for is the man who eventually calls me. And then he says, Josy, I'm going to make you from copywriter to creative director. I believe you have that, but I can't pay you much. But what I can give you is something no one else can give you. I give you the freedom to fail. It was like, what did he just say? I give you the freedom to fail. My God, I'd never heard that. I was 25 or 26, and nobody, my professors, teachers, parents, friends, no one had ever used those words or given me that license. And that day was like a huge breakthrough for me, because I realized that you can really go for it and not worry about the world when someone's there for you. So that was one big moment. And that moment was about an individual who I was. And isn't it amazing that I was looking for this guy, and eventually he's the guy who gives me a return gift?
Yeah,
Like, it's beautiful.
it is.
And the other breakthrough for me is when I did Women Against Lazy Stubble. Because when we did that, there was no reference point to a campaign like that. It, I'd come from, from David, where I was doing all kinds of amazing work and interesting work, but nothing like this multimedia, break away from traditional media, start with social media, things that I have no idea about. So you have no reference point, and yet you're just following some crazy instinct, and doing something, not knowing whether it'll ever work. And you have a client who's so courageous. It's just this magic of many things where you know nothing, but you have somebody again who's there to back you.
Yeah.
And again, that broke through, So for me, these two moments are like rites of passage for something.
Yeah. And so in terms of, I guess, you as a person, like you get a sense of you when you see your work and when you do these manifestos for Cannes Lion launches and things like that. But what else is there about Josy Paul that isn't immediately obvious to people that is, I guess, important in terms of defining you as a person?
It's very difficult to define yourself, right? Because you're trying not to say too much about who you are, because you're still looking, you're still searching, right? So because anything said about me to myself makes me want to stay in that same place then. So I try to sort of just let the world take me, to be honest with you. Uh, I surrender. So I surrender very easily. And I surrender most to the rain. Something happens to me in those 4 months when it rains in Mumbai. I'm a different person. That's why I keep a terrace. My study opens into a terrace. And when it rains, I cannot understand what that unison is. It's complete and total communion. I just step out, and then I'm with the rain. And then I don't know how, I don't care about the world anymore. It's just something that connects you with something very divine.
Yeah, you have an incredibly spiritual connection with creativity, and that's such a refreshing point of view in terms of identity, because I think maybe potentially it's a Western construct, but a lot of the times we get forced to define ourselves like with very sort of discrete boundaries and attributes and things like that. And I think it's just so wonderful how you say, well, if I do that, it's actually going to prevent me from potentially being something else. So like that complete surrender to just going, I'll just see where I'll flow downstream and see where the tide takes me, or what whispers in my ear. And then maybe I'll be that tomorrow. Just so lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely. And I think that leads me to, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was watching your creative manifesto that you did for Cannes last month, I think. You narrated it, and I got goosebumps listening to you, Josy. It just made me remember why I love creativity. Like you said things like, it can come from anywhere. It exists in everyone, for everyone. It blurs the lines between code and chaos, can take any shape. It's unexpected. It's a sprint towards an invisible finish line. It's the harder path. It can transform people, build businesses, shape society, and you then encourage people to stay restless and aim higher. Like, yes, that is incredible. And I think even like listening to your other talk about when you set up David and you made everyone do a resignation letter from adulthood, which I thought was great. And you set the agency up as a playroom, good ideas in the bathroom, bad ideas in the toilet. Like, you have a very unusual, I haven't encountered it many times, if at all, apart from you. You have this like very childlike, poetic yet sincere and inspiring and inclusive approach to creativity that's very empowering. Like, you're very magnetic. Like, people just want to be around you and just listen to you and just sort of be in your presence. And I just wondered that, I mean, that's just you and you're not trying to be anything else but, which is why it's extra wonderful. But I'm wondering that in terms of when you get into your creative development process, how do you design? Because you talk a lot about being inclusive in terms as a means or the key way to sort of achieve progress through creativity.
Yeah.
How do you kind of discern the difference between creative collaboration between partners, so whether they're account management and strategists and production, and creative authority, which is where you go, okay, kids, thank you for all of your inputs, but now this is where I'm going to make the final decision. Because, you know, some creatives are very guarded about that process and they will assign very discrete roles to each department. They'll be like, nope, suit, you just do this, planner, you just give me that, production, you just give me that. But I've always found your approach very different, and same with David Guerrero. It's much more surrendered and open. But I guess I wonder, how do you kind of discern where those lines are to bring everyone in and to kind of cut everyone off and go, okay, now it's my turn?
That's really a great question. I mean, this really is at the heart of creative development. And we don't know, I don't know if this is the best way, but this is one way and this is what we do. And it's not that any other creative process is right or wrong. And there are creative people who need certain spaces and may not like the approach that we have. So I'm mindful of that. But essentially, it starts as a collective because we call it creative therapy, right? We say everyone is invited to this table, you know, and we are not going to write, and you're not a copywriter and you're not your designation. Just at a hard, deep human level, we're going to sit together, maybe even hold hands if required, and talk about the subject, not talk about the brand, but talk about that subject that we want to discuss, whether it is laundry or whether it is e-commerce, whatever get to the basic subject. And then we say, what is our relationship to that, our personal relationship. We don't want research of other people, this, that, nothing. Let's just talk about us and our connection with that. Maybe we have no connection, but as we talk, like in a therapy session, things will come up. And then it's amazing, Jen, what happens. It's just like it gets so deep. And then people discover and uncover things they've never realized about their connection with that category. Just to give you an example, we were doing something for e-commerce, eBay. And eBay said, we want you guys to help us find our purpose. So how do you find a purpose for someone else? It's very difficult, right? You're searching for your own in the first place. And then you got to do it for a brand. But what we did was we had all kinds of people from admin, people from HR, people who, not connected to the creative process, but everybody in the room. And we spoke about things. And we said, let's talk about things, why we buy things. And everyone started at a very surface level. And then we started talking deeper and deeper. And then one of the girls said, I buy things because my grandmother always wanted a boy. And it was quite emotional because she said, I buy things to prove to her that I can buy more things than a boy. Yeah. It was like, oof. And then everyone began to cry, and then more stuff came out. And these confessions go to the ocean flow of ourselves. And at that level, when you hit rock bottom, everyone's the same. And that is where, you're trying to see if we can take something from that. And then and the thing is, this is important. That is, everybody comes out of these sessions feeling amazing.
Mm.
And they come and say, can we do more of this? I say, listen, we're not a therapy agency. We're just doing this for a client need. But at the same time, I'm careful that we're not manipulating human beings. So I do ask them, guys, any of you felt anything where you, they said, no, Josy, we want to say more. I said, but you've said stuff. Are you okay? You said it in this room. I said, we're absolutely fine, you know? And that is something I've never witnessed before.
Yeah.
And so when we go to these levels, we start writing stuff we've never written before. So for eBay, we did a campaign that said, things don't judge. We have 100 million things that don't judge. The ring doesn't know if you're gay or not, the wedding ring, or, a skipping rope doesn't know if you're 72 years old, or things like that.
Yeah.
So, and it really touched people in India because they'd never seen an e-commerce campaign like that.
It makes such a big difference, as you say, to actually go through the ego center and the rational part of your brain and actually come from the heart and the emotional and the limbic side of the brain, because it's entirely irrational. And, 95% of our decisions are made from that part of our brain, yet we focus so hard on the 5% and the reasons to believe and all those sorts of things, because I think a lot of the times clients and agencies can get caught up on getting a brief like that, find my purpose for me. And then there's almost like a robotic kind of sequence that kicks in. It's like the planner will go away, find some data on, e-com buying behaviors, look at what's selling the most, and then go, what are people buying the most of? What's currently going on in the world that we could attach ourselves to? Rather than actually going deep into the human psyche and going fundamentally, what is the universal trigger for all of us, whether you're in India or Australia or the US? Like, potentially, of course, the execution might be slightly different, but the insight is just as profound.
And what happens, Jen, is that after that, now we've got to do the hard work of curating and presenting and all that. But because everyone's gone through this process, the whole designation and the compartments no longer exist, because what they've experienced is something that will not allow their conditioning, which is based on labels, to come in the way, because they've gone through a catharsis. And that's how you break the organization and throw away the concept of an organization and make it more community based, So
and do you have the clients in that session with you as well?
Sometimes, but it's very difficult for clients to do that. We did it once. I had to ask everyone to put their designations on a sheet of paper, wear it, and throw it in the air. So that I said, because I want you guys to get rid of this power position that you hold in this room. Otherwise, and that's how we did a campaign called Release the Pressure for Mirinda, where it was about teenagers and what they're going through during exam time. And Mirinda did this incredible campaign. PepsiCo, Mirinda is a PepsiCo orange drink from PepsiCo. Never done a campaign like that. They've always spoken to teenagers, but they've always been a fun brand. And we said fun is important, which is why don't tax your children so much during the exams. They need 15 minutes of fun between all this high impact competitive Indian mindset. And when we did Release the Pressure, these guys, after that session, the CEO and CMO were thinking about their own kids. And they've, even just last week, I got a letter from that guy asking me for help. And we're not their agency anymore. But he actually went on a town hall meeting and said, I don't care even if you don't sell a single bottle of Mirinda. I want this campaign done. And it was such a breakthrough at that time, 2 years ago. People can't believe it. And of course, after that, he left PepsiCo, because often what happens is these campaigns tend to do something to the individual.
Mm.
It changes the CMO to start thinking about where he or she is wanting to do with life.
Yeah.
It often happens, I've seen.
Yeah.
And yeah, so sometimes we do get the client involved.
Yeah. And I think that your work seems to have that impact on people. It just, there's this resonance, and it's like that knowing. It's like, you know, when you feel it straight away, and you intuitively are already trying to work out how it can happen, rather than trying to find the reasons about what's wrong with it. You just know in your heart that that's the right thing to do. And then your brain starts scrambling about how to bring it to life. And I think that ladders, you know, into another thought that you've spoken about in a couple of other interviews as well, about being an antenna. That you know, very humbly, you know, say, I'm not a guru, I'm not a creative leader, I'm just purely an antenna, to listen to people and gift back to them what's already there. I'm just revealing what they want to hear, which I think is an incredible. I think it's much more than that you do, but I think, you know, in terms of you cultivate a lot of empathy organically, which I think, and the craft is also in discerning what is important and what is powerful.
Yeah.
So like, and I think that's why the work that you do for BBDO India is so incredible, because even if you were to write down your process and let every agency have it, it wouldn't be the same output, because of the person, which is you, discerning the actual inputs and the outputs and how to take it to the next step. So do you kind of have any other, I guess, benchmarks or hallmarks that you consider a good creative leader should have? So one of the things is obviously for you to be an antenna in order to sort of cultivate empathy and reveal things back to people that makes them feel seen and heard and reflected, and, you know, some sort of profound insight. Is there anything else that you feel is like a hallmark of a creative leader?
I can only talk about what I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel that the word leader, and these are words that come from the dictionary and they're important. And leaders, what other people call leaders, the leader doesn't call herself or himself a leader, because the leader is actually a follower, because that leader is following something, some calling. And so that leader is going towards that. You know, it's like the Holy Grail. You know, you can see it in your head or your heart or whatever, all of you, and you're just going after it. And then because you're articulating what you're going after, people are saying, I want to be with you, or, you know, maybe this makes sense. And it's helping brands, or it's helping our creative energy, or it's helping a creative life. And so you work together, and you're not like, so you're not trying to do anything specific, to be honest with you. People are doing it to themselves. You know, it's you're watching the magic of people around you and saying, man, how are you becoming so amazing? And that's all you're doing. And you're essentially a soldier with purpose, because you're still in the grind. You're still, you know, on all fours, look, going after something. And that's the calling, and that's why you're a follower. So I think that's my version of another way of doing it. Is that you it's like Forrest Gump, and he keeps running and suddenly stops. You know, it's the truth is, it is a bit of that, you know. And that movie is so great and continues to be great because, I don't know, whoever the writer, I can't remember, but fundamental human things in it. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not able to give you a specific trait, other than that the leader is a follower who's, you know, charging after his or her calling.
I think that's a much better answer, in terms of like that it is actually, it's a mindset and it's a service, and I guess it's kind of almost an inevitable way of being. And it's just that through the sheer passion and dedication that you have to this vision, that people magnetize to you and want to come with you.
I remember something very beautiful I saw once, where Sir Chris Bonington, who's done Everest 7-8 times, was asked by Tim Sebastian on BBC, you know, television, saying that you're a very selfish man. You've done all these, trips to the Everest, and you become famous, and people pay for all your trips, and the Sherpas who are there follow you and help you, but
Yeah.
only you get all the name and fame. So you're a very selfish man, Sir Chris Bonington. I was shocked when I was watching that interview. How could Tim Sebastian be so acidic? And then this guy pauses. Chris Bonington pauses, and then he says, "Tim, mountaineering is all I know, and with what I know, every single time I try to push myself to the limit, so that people who are watching me can feel they can do the same in their field,
Yeah.
and that's how I contribute."
Yeah.
And for him, that is leadership, right?
Yeah.
For him, leadership is, and I got it from what you just said, Jen, which
Yeah.
is you are doing what you're doing, and then amazing people are reading stuff and making it their own in their own way.
Yeah.
You have no right to say you led them,
Yeah.
because they did it to themselves.
Yeah. 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 It's like basically, it's you doing what you feel is right,
Yeah,
and people will take the meaning that they need from it.
for themselves. Yeah, and that's how they find energy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I think it's a really nice perspective on leadership as well, because I think that we can try and be too prescriptive about a checkbox of what leaders should and shouldn't look like, but there are many different dimensions and different motivations as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think in terms of doing the right thing as well, and constantly being on that creative journey, like in charge of brands and things like that, you need to have a very firm, I guess, moral compass and creative compass inside you to kind of direct you. Otherwise, you could boil the ocean trying to work out what to do next for a brand. And the example that I had here was on Ariel Share the Load, which is on its 4th year now, which is incredible. So it certainly wasn't just a flash in the pan. It's an enduring campaign that's been proven to be successful year after year after year after all the iterations that you keep doing with it. And I think what was really interesting that I'd love you to talk a little bit more about, because I think that a lot of creative agencies get tempted to do this, is that when you are in the 4th year of a brand, or the 5th year, or even the 2nd year sometimes, it's very tempting to go, all right, we've got to keep it interesting. Let's do something drastic. Let's do a U-turn or a 180 for the brand. But you actually made a comment and you said inclusive is better than edgy. And I was wondering if you could expand on that.
Yeah, that again, I must firstly compliment you for the kind of research, and you've really, in a big way, helped me find perspective because of these questions. So thank you for that, Jen.
Oh, my pleasure. That's so much fun to do.
The thing is, it's stages of your life. To be honest with you, it's when you lead. I'd like to believe that I'm trying to lead a creative life, which doesn't mean I'm in the creative department or anything. It's that all of us are born to be creative, and all of us lead a creative life. So as part of the creative life, when I set up David, for me at that time, I saw myself as an R&D department. I was looking at 10% of influence and saying that I'm going to look at all the edges and where things should be going. And I was being driven by that. I was being driven by a selfish need to just keep discovering the edges of my work and stuff. But then in BBDO something happened, and the whole experience that I had in creating a monument of sound and other things led me to understand and feel for a larger universe. And then I said to myself, why am I doing this R&D thing? When we can easily see the influence that we are having with a larger audience. So for me, my work led me to that conclusion that that was a stage and that was your growth, and now the R&D is over, and now you got to be in a more mass sort of influence. And so when we did Share the Load, Touch the Pickle, these were like really mass sort of actions. And more importantly, it wasn't us. It was also people taking it. So you started seeing volunteerism, and you started seeing activism, and you started seeing ambassadors, and then you realize that there is another way
Mm.
for inclusivity, and that when you're inclusive, the other person becomes your champion. So why are you holding all onto yourself,
Yeah.
which was the David way? So I gave up. I said, let go. I gave it up, and
Yeah.
and that experience in front of the Taj taught me that
Mm.
when you let go, and the whole world takes over, it becomes so much bigger, and like you can't believe it happened. So yeah, so that surprise, when it's inclusive, the world surprises you.
Yeah.
When it's exclusive, you're in so much control that there's no surprise.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's such a wonderful philosophy. And I think that, how can you bring that into the agency and client relationship? Like, like you say, like you made the other clients write their
Yeah.
roles down and then rip it up and then throw it in the air, and then you got to some amazing work. I mean, given what's happened this year, there's extraordinary pressure on companies to, grow or survive, to get sales back, but they also have a lot of pressure to build a brand simultaneously. And if anything, they've probably got more pressure to be purpose driven now moving forward in light of all the social upheaval that's happened this year. So, would you have any advice for marketers or clients about what you think they should know to get the best out of their agency partners, given that they've got to balance those two competing priorities, which is like sales now and also build the brand at the same time?
The wheel is still in spin, and nobody really knows uh, what is the right thing at this point. So
Mm,
it's all very in motion.
mm,
And with different clients, we're having different experiences. So we're not able to say, this is the best way,
yeah,
uh, you know. Uh, and it all is so dependent on who's the senior leader, who's leading the culture,
yeah,
and how sensitive is that person to the dynamics of a different world.
yeah.
So right now, we don't really have an answer, Jen.
Mm,
It's what we do, in fact, is have more sessions with them about the state of the world, and sensing what's going on. So this all truth of the moment that we talk about in BBDO worldwide, that's what we're seeking. We haven't found that. I
mm,
don't think we do. Like with different clients, we like right now I'm doing a campaign for WhatsApp worldwide. Yeah. And it's very interesting because they're very sensitive to this environment, because WhatsApp is touching 2 billion people's lives.
yeah,
So when you're touching 2 billion people, you're essentially you're touching the world. You
mm,
can sense what's going on. So how do you talk to that world, and especially at a time when WhatsApp is being used by most people to connect with their near and dear ones?
yeah,
So that's one. The other is, say, a Ford, Ford cars and Ford experience. It's not the largest manufacturer in the country, but it's relevant to a time where people want to be safe in their cars or in their homes. And cars are the new homes, especially when you're moving, because you're in control, and everything's safe inside. It's a bubble. It's a bubble that's left your home. And so how do you sense things with that? So each business is creating new excitement and new knowledge and new understanding,
mm.
but there's no one single way to do it at this point. So we're just being very open, and saying that, listen, we've got to do this together. We don't know.
Well, it's
Yeah.
in line with your creative philosophy of surrender, isn't it? It's like that, just being open enough at the very start to really dig deeper, like really
Yeah.
excavate and mine for the context and the
Yeah.
insight and the real profound feeling and the emotion that,
Yeah.
'cause at the end of the day, we all make decisions and behave based on a way that we want to feel.
Yeah.
So kind of really understanding that, and then just being open-minded to how how it could take shape, as you say, how the creative could take shape. Yeah, because if you do get to that level of depth of understanding and insight, you just almost can't help but be valuable to consumers if they've taken the time to really understand their context and their needs and their desires.
Yes.
At a deeper level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that finding is also a beautiful process, and we are fortunate to be in advertising where we're dealing with so many consumers and so many different brands.
Yeah.
So ability to find is beautiful. So we don't want to know too soon, and nor do we want to measure too soon, because we want to be in the spin. We're whirling. We're in a whirl.
Yes. But there is also you've always had a great ability to balance creative instinct as well as creative risk for impact. And I think Monument of Sound is one of those examples where I laughed when you said, oh, I've never chanted before, but I felt that it was the right thing to do. And I just wondered if there was, and also I think when Bates was merging with David, you were wearing protest T-shirts saying, if you mix milk with water, you don't get more milk. And everyone thought you were a little bit crazy, but you're like, I don't care. So like, how do you kind of, balance that, creative risk as well as instinct? Just, like you say with Monument of Sound, you just went, I don't think a press ad is the right response for this. I think I need to do a Monument of Sound and it needs to be chanting, but I've never chanted, but I think we should do it.
Yeah. That's again another very fundamental life question, because it's about leading a creative life.
Yeah.
And when you have taken that decision to be vulnerable to so many criticisms, and to, everything's so subjective. Everything about you becomes what people can say anything. You are not a poet. You are the poetry that people can say is shit. And so when you go through that process, uh, you're constantly you're so super sensitive about the world, and all the books you've read and all the songs you've heard and all the people you met and all the learnings you've had in your early days, they all come together like one explosive force. And when you're going through something like, what should I do, an answer comes. I know this sounds like there's no direction in this statement that I'm saying, but that's how it is. It's these combinations that hit you. And I don't know why suddenly it came to me that I must do something in front of the Taj. It's just, and why should it? It's a monument of sound because I don't want to take permission from anyone to build a structure. If I had that capability of architecture, then I would start going around getting something and building a sculpture or a architectural thing. But I have nothing. I have no connection. So no one can take sound away from me. I can build sound. So it's a combination of constraint and where you're coming from, and suddenly it all comes together. It's not a logical process, and yet it is the logic of your past which you're not aware of. That's helping you. And even the t-shirts was like, it was pain. I think the beauty of letters that go across your chest is that it's close to your heart, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're really wearing your heart out on your chest on these things. And so I wanted to make that point. I did it. And the risk factor is like, at every time, Jen, I'm willing to lose. At every time, I want to lose, because I feel that we have not encouraged that enough in our college and school days. And so I want to challenge that notion of success. Because in loss, you're finding. In success, you're stuck. So I'm okay to take that risk. There is no risk for me. It is joy. It's discovery.
Yeah. And I think you can definitely see that in some like in retrospect, when I've worked with creatives that have been a bit more difficult, I think they were being so difficult because they felt so insecure. that they must, get this work sold.
Okay.
They must get it up. They must prove to their creative director that, they can do good work. So I kind of have compassion for that. I mean, it was terrible in the moment, but I think looking back on that with some maturity and wisdom and just going, I feel really bad for you guys because they didn't have that permission to fail that you had at the very start. And I think you achieve such more incredible things if you just surrender and let, the universe deliver to you something more incredible than you could ever imagine. It's like with Monument of Sound. You had no idea that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that was the risk, but the payoff was also incredible because you took that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then in terms of like advice for, I guess, young creatives that are coming up that are desperate to make their mark and, find their style and their voice, what advice, and you talk about embarrassment and rejection as incredible fuel for being better and doing better things. Apart from that, is there any other advice you would have for them in terms of developing as a creative without losing their humanity or becoming disenfranchised, that no one gets their work and everyone's stupid?
For me, I think the only way to get there is by failing and by looking stupid. There's no other way.
Yeah, I love that.
That's the only way. And I still remember, and this may be not connected, it suddenly reminded me of something that happened to me when I went to represent my college in one of these cultural festivals, and I lost in the first round. And I was sitting dejected in a faraway little spot garden type of thing, because it was a 400-acre property, that particular center. And I remember these 4 guys or 5 guys came in front of me, and I got scared because I thought I was in a secluded place and they're going to get me.
Yeah.
What they did instead was they came and said, we want to make a presentation to you. I don't know them, they don't know me. 5 strangers, and they had a big little board and box, and they opened it and it became a box. It was a flat board which became a box. And then they stood in a line and jumped into the box and came out from underneath. It was so stupid. And then after that, they came and stood on the other side of the box. They had come from the left, came out of the right. Then they stood in front and said, and that, my friend, is fruit juice. Is fruit juice. So they were trying to say they're coming through some mixer and coming out as fruit juice. It was just this random bunch of probably stoned guys.
Yeah.
And when I saw that in that mood of dejection, I saw that and I said, isn't this brilliant, man? You can turn any shit into any shit. Like, this is great. Why do we have to worry about rejection and dejection? We can convert it. And at the same time, I was studying physics. So this whole nature of conversion and being able to convert energy was something that was playing for me. So I always look at it as what can you transform, what can you put in and what can you take out? And these things. So that's what I meant by the experiences. My memory is such that I collect everything. I remember everything, Jen. And at different points, they come like a kaleidoscope in different formations and give me something. So it just happens.
It's so wonderful. And I know you're always so open to input from peers as well, because I remember you saying you used to send your work around to all the ECDs in the BBDO network. Where you had, just to get different perspectives and stuff like that. And one of the key differences I noticed with you and a lot of other, between yourself and a lot of other creatives is that, and it makes sense now, having told me about how you went searching in the mountains for that guy and that piece of advice that he gave you. That's the key difference, is that I think you subconsciously planted in the back of your head, it's okay to fail. So if it's okay to fail, I can, and children are the purest forms of creativity, aren't they? Because they have no filters about what's possible or not. And I think that's why, you just have this, I don't know, it's this incredible, just torrent of energy for the thing, and this kaleidoscopic kind of way of pulling together creativity, which is, I think, really frustrating for young creatives that are trying to study you, because they're like, God damn it, what's the formula? How does he do it? But what you're actually saying is you just got to surrender, be open, and live a creative life. Like rather than, live a life of a creative in an advertising agency, you need to almost embody the philosophy that true creativity is destruction.
Yeah.
It's destruction of the ego.
You got it, Jen. You're ultimate philosopher. You got it.
No, I'm just listening to you and I'm being an antenna for you. I'm learning from you.
It's so lovely to see the way you're able to put that and articulate it so well. Because you said it, the young people, and they ask me, they get really upset. Josy, where's the formula? Give it to us. 6 principles.
I was listening to you talk and I went, oh, they're going to be pissed because they're going to be there with their notepads going, because I've told a bunch of people I'm interviewing you and they're like, oh my God, so cool. And they're going to be there with their notepads trying to write down 3 things that they can do to be an amazing creative. But I mean, I think that's even better. It's the best lesson is that if you're trying to impress other creatives or if you're trying to impress even a client, like you're going to fail. And that's a hard truth that at some point in your journey, you just need to be a dick and fall on your face, like, make it epic because you'll learn more from that. It's like your story about how you threatened to jump out of the boardroom in your first creative presentation.
I don't know how that happened. Yeah, you're right. It was, I can't believe I did it. Or that I threatened to. Because the thing is, I also took a calculated thing. When I went to the window, I realized we were on the first floor. We knew we were on the first floor. So even if I jumped, I wouldn't die. Something would have broken, but like it was worth it.
It made me laugh so much. I was just imagining you, because it doesn't feel like you at all.
But that's the change, right? That's the change. When you were young, you allowed yourself to evolve, and not be the same. So I feel I've lived 3-4 different lives in a way.
Yeah. And I hope that the creative people get that from your journey, because like when they listen to you today and hear that story, they're like, what? He was on a window ledge threatening to jump if like the idea wasn't bought. It just doesn't seem like the same person. But like you say, the creative journey is an evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I adore it. It's so incredible. Josy, I'm so conscious of your time. You've probably got 10 million brands to work on.
All good. It's just so wonderful for me, it's therapy when I talk to you like this.
Oh, I wish we could do this for another 3 hours. Like I'm having so much fun. We haven't even started. I've got so many other things that I wanted to ask you, but
it's cool. Yeah.
I so appreciate the time that we had together, and it was so lovely to see you again. I know that so many people are going to get so much out of what you just said. I think you're a narrative that needs to be normalized in the world of creativity that's gotten far too serious. I'm just so grateful for you. I love what you do. I love you as a person. I love your work. Thank you for making the time for this call.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope we get
reach out to me if you need anything, any other, any further, whatever. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I will do. Please take care of yourself, and hopefully we can see each other some way, somehow.
Yeah. All the best to you and your mission and your cause. Yeah.
Thank
Go
you.
for it.
And to you. Go change the world. Keep changing the world.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. See you soon.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.